Hey, Stoney here with another game of Mechabellum. This is a game from the mini tournament Americas that just happened yesterday. So in this game, I will be going with a supply specialist, starting with Fangs and Phoenixes, and my opponent will be a quick supply specialist, starting with Fangs and Sledgehammers. Knowing that my opponent's boards mostly consist of slow units, I've decided to take advantage of my supply specialist, which gets you the 50 additional supply on turn 1. And that allows me to summon the Stormcrawlers, which should be good against both the slow moving Fangs as well as the slow moving tanks. Now, of course, there's always a danger against a quick supply, especially if they're starting out with Sledgehammers, to go with 4 packs of Sledgehammers, and that is exactly what happened here. I personally do not like to go with 4 packs of Sledgehammers on turn 1. That is because I would like my Sledgehammers to level up. So if the more units that you have on board, the more evenly spread the damage will be between these units, and the slower your units will level up. Right? If you intend on going Sledgehammer carry, you want to have level 2 Sledgehammers as soon as possible. I've started using, especially if I'm quick supply, I've started trying to save money for the Sledgehammer and just go level 2 Sledgehammers right away, starting on turn 2. It is a little bit more expensive. You have to pay for that extra premium, 100 resource premium. But I think in the long run it's worth it because it's so difficult to level 4 squads of Sledgehammers. Yeah, it's just not you lose a lot of tempo. Level 2 Sledgehammers are much more difficult to deal with. Alright, unit cards. Marksman could be very good for me. Arclight could be very good for me. I didn't have any Chaff clear to begin with. I had 3 sets of Fangs, so I decided that could be a bigger problem. The Wraith would be bad because he would just pick Marksman and the Wraith would be dead. So I decided to go with just 2 Arclights to help with my Chaff clear in case he does go Crawlers. The tanks is a legitimate problem, which I don't have a solution for just yet, but if he decided to go with Crawlers, then I will be in even bigger trouble. I thought about adding a Arclight here at the corner, then I remembered the Marksman was also one of the options, and it's very likely my opponent will go for Marksman because in turn 1 he didn't have any solution to my Phoenixes. So we want something that will shoot up. I took the Phoenix Jump. Like I said, it's a poor man's missile, 50 resources, and you get a lot of mileage if you play them right. I put 1 pack of Phoenixes back in the corner, and I put the other pack right here, hoping to catch a few tanks as they pop up. Both of them are being intercepted by the Marksman, unfortunately. I was really hoping to put the Marksman more on the inside of the tower instead of being on the outside, but Cheeseburglar is a little too good for that. So Chaff clear is decent, however, I won't be able to mop up the rest of the army. I did take a tower upgrade, and I put 2 of my Arclights both on this side. That's because, 1, I don't think I'll win in an even fight because there are 4 squads of Sledgehammers and there's only 2 Arclights. And 2, I think in the long run, I might go with War Factory. And with that in mind, Senior Manufacturing card showed up, and if I am planning on going War Factory, might as well take that card. Shield drop is also interesting. Right now, there's not a whole lot of damage. As long as I can keep the Marksman occupied, I don't think these Sledgehammers will be able to bring down a shield on their own. M-Core, interesting. More interesting if I have something like a Mustang. So I do want to go with War Factories. I've noticed there's a lot of tanks, and I've noticed that they're not being leveled. And instead of me trying to answer the tanks on this turn, I've simply just added more Chaff. I wanted to make sure that when the War Factory does come out, we'll have enough Chaff support so that it doesn't get locked on immediately. I started to shift my phoenixes around just a little bit, so I have them positioned in the middle, knowing that these set of fans are going to die very quickly, and hopefully once they die, my phoenixes will lock onto the tanks and get rid of the tanks. These crawlers are not going to be a huge problem because of this arc light. These crawlers are going to go into this arc light. My crawlers are going to get into his tanks, so overall I think it's a pretty balanced board. The tower is doing its job as well. It's essentially tying up this entire section of the army. So after they've done dealing with whatever they have here, which is really a set of fans, they will be coming down here to take my tower. My opponent added a set of crawlers with mobile beacon. Very good, because my stone crawlers are very close together, so they'll be able to get both. I'm not sure about this one. I think he was expecting me to go with more stone crawlers on this side, but unfortunately I have completely abandoned that side and just focusing my effort on the right. Alright, so the chaff is cleared. Phoenixes are powering down his tanks. Once these tanks are done, hopefully we'll be able to switch target, but unfortunately the positioning of the tank and the fans are just a little too optimized, so that my arc light was shooting at the tanks, my phoenixes were shooting at the fans. But that's okay, right? So I am still, yes, I lost the round, but that is pretty much expected if I'm saving money for my next round. And you can see there's still unit being tied to that tower. When you have a situation like this, you know you've done well because these units are not participating in the battle. And because they're unable to take the tower, they're not getting experience as well. Alright, unit cards. I am going War Factory, so none of these really appeal to me. Nano Repair Kit is probably pretty good once this tanks start to get leveled. So if I were him, I'd take Nano Repair Kit and put out one of his higher level tanks. I've got the War Factory, so you can see I still have money left over. So in round 4, you'll get 800 resources. It takes 200 to get the War Factory out, another 800 to get onto the board, and I still have 250 left over. So I've been saving resources for about 2 rounds. I've been just doing nothing but putting 200 resource worth of chaff every turn, and also just take on a free unit. And it's good that I have War Factory out this turn because 1 is unexpected, right? We're only on turn 4. 2, his sledgehammers are starting to gain levels, and I want to make sure that they do not get level higher than level 2. Right now at level 2, I'm still 2-shotting them. Level 1, I'm 1-shotting, but once they get to level 3, that becomes just a little bit tricky. With the additional money, I took the high explosive ammo. I wanted my War Factory to be shooting at the units as quickly as I can. I did have 50 resources left over. I should have totally taken efficient maintenance. That would have saved me an extra 50 this turn. Because if you don't take efficient maintenance, you have to pay 200 resources per turn just to maintain the War Factory. Efficient maintenance reduces that by 100. So you pay 50, you save 100, you net 50. So that's a pretty good deal, if I were to say so. My left side got completely destroyed as expected. My right side is completely destroying my opponent. Even with the level 3 marksman, I don't believe he has enough firepower to take down this War Factory. Let's find out. Nope. So you can keep shooting at me, right? Keep shooting at me, but there's just not enough firepower. Alright, round 5. Lots of interesting cards. Range Specialist is very interesting. Haste Module is pretty good as well, but I think at this point there's a couple problems I need to prepare myself for. It's not on the board yet, but I need to prepare myself for. There are 2 types of counters against War Factory. Well, actually 3. So the first type of counter is melting point. This is the obvious choice, especially ranged melting point. The second counter is acid range scorpions, and then the third counter is just a war factory of his own. Okay. War factory on his own, I think, yeah, he could definitely do that for this turn. He could also do melting point. I think melting point is the most likely option here. Just looking at the status of his board, he has a ton of small units. He has more chaff than I have. I do have Stormcaller with high explosive, so they're excellent against the slow moving board of my opponent. I don't have any chaff in front of my war factory, and I have very few chaff that's following up. So really I have 1, 2, 3, 4 chaff that's kind of potentially helping my war factory out. If a range melter just lock onto one of these, just gets a lock on, it doesn't even need to be a high level, just a low level, level 1 melter, it could bring down this war factory very quickly. So to answer that, I took range on war factory. Range is expensive, it's 300, so you have to pay the 200 premium, so that's 500 total. Without taking this tag, I could have brought in another war factory, just use the resources from the round. But I think it is a bit dangerous just to have to deal with a melting point at some point. So I decided to take range. Range also works relatively well against war factories if they're on the line, and that's just because the nature of how war factory works, right? So war factory has 2 cannons up front, and usually the war factory will stop and shoot with the 2 cannons at the front, and the back cannon would just be pretty much useless because the unit would not move forward once it's reached its maximum range. If he puts a war factory here on the line, his war factory will actually be within range for all 4 of my cannons. So I will be doing double damage to his war factory, while his war factory might just be doing damage from the front 2 cannons. So range is another hedge. If you're positioning your war factory somewhat close to the front line and you're expecting your opponent to do the same on the front line as well. Looking at my opponent's board, he didn't take a melting point. That's very interesting. So he continued to upgrade the marksman. I know he's got probably a few more upgrades here on the sledgehammers. I think upgrading the marksman is a mistake. I think at this point, once you see war factory and once you know the war factory has just leveled since the first turn, you need to have a definitive answer to war factory. Like, if you do the math, right, this level 4 marksman does 10,000 damage per shot every 3 seconds. My level 2 war factory has 383,000. So 10,000, right? That's 38 shots. 38 shots times 3 seconds per shot. That's what, 104? 114 seconds? That's a lot of freaking seconds. We don't have 114 seconds in a round. So yeah, even if this marksman locks on the war factories from the first second of the game, he still wouldn't be able to bring it down. And that just shows how big of a tempo war factory is. If you don't respond correctly, it's simply just snowball, because right now my opponent's board has no tempo. Every turn he will have to spend resources trying to deal with this war factory. Well, I get to do whatever the heck I want. I can go wasps, now that I've seen wasps. I can go more stonecallers. I can go more war factories. I can go melters of my own, right? So I have a huge tempo lead while my opponent is stuck solving the problem of 383,000 HP. And these wasps are trying their hardest, but it's like tickling to my war factory. Like, nothing is happening. You don't even see the health bar move. So anyways, we're just going to wait for it to count down, and that is another win for me. Or, well, technically a draw, but I deal 600 damage with the war factory. All right, units, cards. Portable shield is interesting. Senior defense is very tempting. It increases the HP by 30%. I really wanted to take senior. But I also really wanted to bring in a bunch of war factories as well. And I noticed I also had a bit of a Chaff problem. He does not have anything that does a lot of damage in a lot of area damage. The only Chaff clear he has right now are these sledgehammers. Sledgehammers are notoriously bad against shielded fans because they cannot one-shot them. And they don't have that high of a fire rate either. So every shot that they make will deal overkill damage because the damage that they do, 1000, is higher than the health, like 100. But if you add shield, they will do overkill first on the shield and then again on the fans. So for a unit like sledgehammers, they'll just be wasting a lot of potential damage on your unit. I added ranged Mustangs. Ranged Mustangs is a great combination with ranged War Factory. One is just because the Mustangs will clear out the chaff, and then once the chaff is cleared, they will actually stand in front of the War Factory, providing chaff themselves. So when you're up against things like Melting Point, this is a great combination because you can use them in two ways. So in the beginning of the game, they'll be shooting on chaff. Once the chaff is dead, they stand in front of the War Factory and shoot, and providing support for things like Melting Points and Marksman. And that allows your War Factory to deal the damage it needs to these units, Melting Points. So as you can see right now, it's distracting this whole unit here. So my War Factory is moving forward. He does have shield on this Melting Point, which is kind of scary, but it's a level 2 War Factory. So once it gets in range, there's no buts, no ifs. It's just a dead Melting Point. Okay, round 7. I think Wraith might be a good card for me. Fire Badger is also a good card. The reason I said Wraith and Fire Badger is because for me, I have a bit of a chaff clear problem. My Stormcrawlers, they are doing excellent. You can see by how many units these guys have to kill. Like this one's killed 229 units for the course of the game. They are doing great. But last game I noticed there's this clump of units that is just simply not being killed, and my War Factory had to spend a considerable amount of time to clear that out. So I needed something that is a bit more efficient to help with my Stormcrawlers. Because Stormcrawlers, while they're great, they're unreliable in the sense that they could miss. So Fire Badgers would be a good option to help out with that. And also Fire Badgers themselves are extremely tanky, right? One of these is like 13,000 HP. So it's serving, once again, two purposes. It's just the same as the Mustangs. So they will help with my chaff clear. And once the chaff is dead, these Fire Badgers will participate in the defense of my War Factories. I have enough money to bring out another War Factory, putting them on the side. I noticed that this side was just a little too strong, so I want to make sure I cover this side as well. He put Mech Rage on his tank. I think he was anticipating Shielded Fangs. I don't have the resource yet to do Shielded Fangs. I'll just continue to build on my chaff. More Mustangs are being introduced to the board on my side. He took the Wraith, which are excellent, and added range to the Wraith, so they are going to be extremely beefy and also very good at clearing my chaff. I added range on my Fire Badgers, allowing them to hit things a bit further. Otherwise, Fire Badgers' range is abysmal. I took a loan because I am within striking distance, so I want to see what happens this round. With two War Factories, with additional chaff clear and additional chaff, I'm feeling pretty good about this round. So this maneuver is, you see this more often in high level plays, is where you are not, now this one is not necessarily drawing anything from my Stormcrawlers, right? So they're essentially running across the board. I think what this guy is trying to do is that if I have units here, my units will simply follow it over to this side where he's got 3 Wraith waiting and a bunch of strong units waiting for me, okay? So this one is going to be a little fishy because these Wraith is taking up a lot of my chaff. Like all my chaff is being killed by this Wraith. Fortunately, I have 5 Badgers in the midline, which was able to distract the melting point. But these Wraith are just living for way too long. It's also stopping my Mustangs from moving forward, right? You notice how long my Mustangs get stuck on this Wraith and not providing support as chaff for my War Factory. So that's definitely a big concern. I was almost killing my opponent with 5 health left. So this could be the final round. Lots of good items. Laser sight on Mustang is very strong. Orbital is very strong, one of the melting points. I've decided to take Smoke Bomb. He has a few units here that can do a lot of damage. So I wanted to make sure that I get, I can severely cripple those units. And Smoke Bomb will help with that. He had an EM on Melting Point, a very good choice because it would nullify my range advantage, forcing my War Factory to move forward within range of not just 1 but 2 Melting Points. I've upgraded my Mustangs and I also took anti-air spec. And that will help me bring down these Wraith a lot quicker. I took temporary range. And I put a missile here because I just really didn't want to deal with that backup crawler. I want everything to just move forward. Still haven't taken Shield of Fans, just didn't have the resource to. I think the last couple of games, one is I got the upgrade for the Fire Badger, which I think paid off, right? They were very efficient at taking down enemy units. They're even good taking down things like Sledgehammers. Like level 2 Fire Badgers can take on a level 1 Sledgehammer head on. Also, I took the upgrades for Aerial, so all expensive decisions. Okay. Unfortunately, the smoke, at least right now, is not helping that much because these melting points is kind of clearing chaff. But once the chaff is clear, they are coming down just a bit more. My Mustangs are getting in range of this Wraith. They are taking down a lot quicker. But unfortunately, this time I didn't have these Fire Badgers to distract these melting point, which means the melting point is going to get my War Factory. I still have quite a bit of level 2 Mustangs left, and this side is winning pretty hard, so I wonder if there's still a chance to get these units here. Okay, got the tower, very nice. Stonecrawler's doing Stonecrawler things, very nice. Got my tower. Yeah. So range, melting point, especially with a bit of chaff up front, is going to, yeah, and especially if it's slowing my tank down, it's going to bring that down, no problem. All right. So good round for him. Let's see if he's able to make it back here. Scorpions are nice. Scorpions are nice for him too, because he's going to be able to add Scorpions, put asset on it. Now he has 2 of the 3 counters to War Factories already on the board, right? So earlier I said there are 3. You can either go range, Acid Scorpions, range Melters, or just War Factories if you own. So he's got Scorpions, he's got Melting Point. So it seems pretty good. On my side, I think I just needed to create more chaos so that my War Factory can shoot everything else from a safe distance. I took the Steel Balls. I added Mechanical Division, so when they die, 5 crawlers will spawn out of each dead steel ball. I've also took the steel ball production, so each War Factory will provide me with 9 additional steel balls, so a crap ton of steel balls. Also took the shield finally on the fans because I was noticing that these tanks were just clearing them out a little too quick. So this round, they're going to have a heck of a hard time getting through my chaff. The Wraith are going to do well, but my Mustangs were dispatching them at a pretty comfortable rate. These fans will hopefully protect everything, right? Will protect me from the Scorpions, will protect me from the Melters, will protect me from everything. And hopefully I'll be able to win this round. So let's see how this one goes. On my opponent's side, I think he took some additional scorpions, added a extra wraith, and also he took underground for the crawlers. So it made sense. Underground reduces the range damage as they're traveling by about half. Most of my chaff gear is ranged, so it makes sense. So right now you're noticing the difference from this turn to last turn. Last turn, this mounting point was already locking onto my war factory. This turn, it was just spending a little bit too long shooting at my chaff. So that allows my mounting point to really start hitting that particular war factory. And it might even get this one, maybe. Barely getting this one. On the other side, I am winning as well. Easily taking down these melters. And with that, that is the nail in the coffin, and that is the end of this game. It was a good game, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you on the next one.